So we've gone over the area of a square, we've gone over the area of a rectangle, of a parallelogram, as well as a triangle. Now let's get into one of the hardest quadrilaterals to understand, which is a trapezoid. So essentially, a trapezoid is a four-sided figure that has a diagonal, okay? So as you can see, both of these are trapezoids. This one is called an isosceles trapezoid because two of the slants are equal to each other. All right, this is just a regular trapezoid. Now, in order to solve this, we're going to have to go ahead and write the equation. Area is equal to half the height times base 1 plus base 2. Now, in this case, one of our bases is 4 and the other base is 3. And this is our height, 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill in. It'll help to always write the formula and just fill it in. So I need half of 5. And I'm going to multiply that by 4 plus 3, okay? So now the area is equal to, what is half of 5? Half of 5 is 2.5 multiplied by 7, okay? 4 plus 3 is 7. Now, lastly, all I got to do is take 2.5 and multiply it by 7, and that's my area. My area is going to be 17.5, so this is going to be 17.5 inches squared, okay? Make sure to go ahead and write the unit for that one. Let's try another example. So area is equal to half the height multiplied by base 1 plus base 2. Now, as you can see over here, there are some measurements that I don't need, which is this slant here, okay? So anything off to the side, if it's not a base or a height, it's not important at this point, okay? So now we have half of the height. The height in this case is 4. And then B1 plus B2, base 1 plus base 2, is going to be 8 plus 5. Okay? Now, half of 4 is 2. So 2 multiplied by 8 plus 5, which is 13. Now, my area is going to be 2 multiplied by 13, which is going to be equal to 26 meters squared. So as you can see, all you need to do is know which ones are the bases and which one is the height. And from there on out, you're just filling in your formula and plugging in and then multiplying. Now, what happens when we have something that's missing? Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and take away the height. All right, so let me go ahead and do that. So as you can see, it's 7. Okay. And let me actually do that problem second. Let's try this one first. Okay, so we have our area, we just don't have our height, but we know our bases, so that means we could figure out the height. So we have half of the height multiplied by base 1 plus base 2. Now, let's just fill in the information that we do know. And let me actually put that back because we know the area. So our area is 18, okay? It's going to be multiplied by half the height. We don't know what the height is, but we do know that base 1 is 7 and base 2 is 5. Or base 1 is 5 and base 2 is 7. It really doesn't matter. Now, let me just go ahead and simplify that. So half the height, 7 plus 5 is going to be equal to 12. All right, so let me just put 12 here. Okay? Now, I could go about this two ways. I could just take half of 12 right now if I want to. So it's going to be 18 is equal to 6 multiplied by the height. So all I did was since the half and the 12 are on the same sides, I could go ahead and combine those like terms. So now I'm going to divide by 6, and then I'm going to divide by 6. So in this case, my height is going to be equal to 3 units. 3 units. Okay, not 3 units squared, just 3 units. Now, let's try this one. Area is equal to half the height multiplied by base 1 plus base 2. As you can see, I'm just going to keep writing the formula over and over again. It's very, very important that you do that so you don't miss any steps. This is like the foundation for algebraic thinking. Now we have half of the height. Base 1 is 10 plus base 2 is 6. So now we have 56 is equal to half the height multiplied by 16. Half of 16 is going to be equal to 8. So 56 is equal to 8 times the height. So I just divide by 8 and divide by 8. So my height in this case is going to be equal to 7 meters. All right? All right? Makes sense. All right? That's exactly what we had at the beginning before we went and boxed it out. Okay? So now, let's get slightly more complicated, and let's say one of our bases is missing. So let me go ahead and start with, I can start with the first one. So once again, area is equal to 1/2 base times height. I'm sorry, 1/2 the height. Let me go ahead and take this back. 1/2 the height, base 1 plus base 2. I could also think about it like this, equals the height multiplied by base 1 plus base 2, and we can have all of that divided by 2 if we want to, okay? Just another thought if that would make this problem easier for you. So now, let's just go ahead and start to plug in. 27.5 is going to be equal to half the height. Our height in this case is 5, and then base 1 plus, let's say 3 is base 2. Okay, so I'm just going to simplify here. So we have 27.5 is going to be equal to half of 5, which is 2.5, multiplied by base 1 plus 3. Now, this is where things get a little bit complicated. Remember, when you're multiplying and you have things in the parentheses, we could go ahead and use the distributive property in order to go ahead and distribute this. All right? So let's go ahead and try that. 27.5 is equal to 2.5 times b1 is just going to be 2.5 b1, okay, which is just our variable. And then we're going to go ahead and add 2.5 multiplied by 3. Now, 2.5 multiplied by 3 is going to be equal to 7.5. 7.5. So keep in mind, I still have a variable here. This b1 is just a variable. You can think about it as x if you want to. All right, just know that that's a variable, so we're going to have to divide by 2.5 at some point. Now I'm going to subtract 7.5 on one side and subtract 7.5 on the other side. That way, I could get the 2.5b1 all by itself, which is the goal. So now 27.5 minus 7.5, that's just simply 20. Now we get into something in which we could divide to get b1 all by itself. So let's just go ahead and divide by 2.5. So now 20 divided by 2.5 is going to give me a value of 8. Okay, so now we know that b1 is equal to 8 feet. b1 is equal to 8 feet. Okay, 8 feet. Now, let's just go ahead and try another one really quick. Area is equal to half the height, base 1 plus base 2. So, once again, 171 is equal to half of 9. Let's just say base 1 in this case is 23 plus base 2. 171 is equal to half of 9. Half of 9 is 4.5 multiplied by 23 plus base 2. Now, let's distribute 4.5 times 23 and 4.5 times b2. So 23 multiplied by 4.5 is going to give me a value of 103.5. All right, so this is going to be equal to 103.5 plus 4.5 b2. All right, that's just 4.5 times b2. We can't really do anything. They're different terms, so it's just 4.5 b2. Now, I want to get the b2 by itself, so I need to subtract this 103.5 minus 103.5. Okay? Now, when I take 171 and I minus 103.5, I get a value of 67.5. So, we have 67.5 is going to be equal to 4.5 b2. Now, once again, b2 is just a variable. It could be x, it could be y, it could be z. It does not matter. It's just a number that we don't know. So to get that by itself, I have to divide by 4.5 and divide by 4.5. So when I go ahead and I divide by 4.5, I get a value of 15. Get a value of 15. So then b2 is going to be equal to 15 feet. So this is 15 feet. Okay? All that manipulating of equations, guys, that's algebra for next year, okay? So you have to learn it, you have to do it, you have to learn the properties of manipulating equations and manipulating functions, okay? If you have any questions in class, please let me know.